This in my hands is the Realme 5 Pro. It promises some great specs at an even better price point, but we're gonna put that to the test because I'm gonna be unboxing this and giving you my first look review at the Realme 5 Pro. So pulling the lid apart, you'll get the box itself. Now in the box it says, hey, welcome to the Realme family. And inside here, you're gonna get some paperwork along with a really nice touch, which is an included free silicone case. Now this price point, that's pretty impressive that Realme have also included that right out of the box. So we'll put that to one side. Then we get to see the device itself. And as you can tell, this is that beautiful blue purple color. Let's just check that out. It looks like it has a diamond cut look on the back. It's got that quad camera on the back, complete with that 48 megapixel main sensor, fingerprint scanner, Realme branding down there at the bottom. Then at the bottom over here, you're gonna get a 3.5mm headphone jack with that USB-C charging cable and speaker grill. And then on the left-hand side, you're gonna get a volume rocker with the SIM tray. On the right-hand side over here, you will get a power on/off wake button. What is that? Inside, you're gonna get the VOOC 3.0 fast charger included as well, and a USB-C charging cable as well, which is in the box. So powering on the device, you're going to notice the front screen. That's a 6.3-inch IPS LCD display. It is bright and it's got some vibrancy to it, which I think will be fine for day-to-day use when it comes to media, viewing content, playing games and the rest of it. One of the things to note is that you do have a bit of a thick bezel around the sides and a bit of a lip down there at the bottom. It does have a smaller notch on the top, which is nice to see, which houses the front-facing camera as well. It doesn't feel cheap at all. In fact, it feels the opposite. It feels quite premium and it has some heft to it as well. Now on the back, you've got this material which almost feels like glass, but I'm sure it's a combination of glass and plastic mixed in. But the way that the light reflects on the back looks really, really nice. Under the hood, in terms of performance, you're going to get a Realme 5 Pro in a range of different variations. You can either get 4, 6, or 8 gigabyte variations. Now the 4 and 6 come with 64 gigabytes, but as in the case of this particular model, this is 8 gigabytes with 128 gigabytes of storage, and it's powered in all of the cases by a Snapdragon 712 chipset, which is essentially a 710 chipset, but it has a couple of minor tweaks. Now I think day to day and for gaming and high intensity, this should perform pretty well. One thing to note, however, is that the Realme 5 Pro actually will limit the CPU and the GPU performance when it's not running on high performance mode. So you can change that in the battery settings if you really want to take the maximum use out of the chipset, but that does come of a trade-off when it comes to battery life, so just be aware of that. Now, as far as the battery life is concerned, you're going to get a whopping 4,045 milliamp hour battery, which will be more than enough to get you through most of the day. One other thing to note is that right out of the box, you do get that VOOC fast charger. Now, it's really important to note that the fast charging, or the ability to VOOC charge, only works with this power brick paired up with this proprietary USB-C cable. So you need the two of these to work together. And what that will do is 50% charge within half an hour, and a full charge is going to take between 80 to 90 minutes, which is still not bad. As far as security is concerned, on the front with that teardrop display, you've got a front-facing camera that can be used to set up your face for unlock. It works really quickly and very easy to do. And then on the back, if you want to go old school, you can also opt for the fingerprint scanner or use both of them together. Now, Realme is essentially running a version of ColorOS 6, which, if you like, is a skin that falls on top of Android 9. It's a pretty nice OS, and there's certain variations like the color gradients and the icons that really make this ColorOS stand out. Some people might not be a fan of some of the included bloatware. It's not that bad on the Realme 5 Pro, but I think overall, as if you like a skin on top of Android, most people will be completely happy with this. Now, on the back is probably one of the big deals about the Realme 5 Pro, and that is that quad camera setup. This is Really quite interesting for Realme to do this. It's made up of a main sensor, which is a 48 megapixel, and that's a Sony IMX586 sensor. It's a very well-known, well-used sensor. It's a sensor that works great for low light and normal lighting as well. That has an aperture of f1.8. Then the second lens is an ultra-wide 8 megapixel f2.2. The third lens is a 2 megapixel f2.4 macro. And then we have a 2 megapixel f2.4, which is essentially for the portrait or depth. Now, all of those cameras do a relatively good job. I'm going to show you some examples. So I found images taken on that main 48 megapixel sensor. By default, it actually shrinks them down to 12 megapixel. If you want to change that, you have the option of the ultra 48 megapixel, which is found in the settings. But the images for the most part are actually really nice. In normal lighting, they look good. There's a good dynamic range, there's good saturation and color, close to realistic. One of the things to note, however, is that once you start zooming in, particularly at 5x or anything higher than that, you are going to notice a lot of noise and distortion. One other thing is that within the camera app, there is also the macro lens. I was really disappointed with this. It took me a ton of attempts to try and get a semi-decent image with the macro, and I'm not really sure why it came out so blurry, but it was the case there. As well as that, there is the ultra 48 megapixel setting, and that will allow you to shoot at the maximum megapixel range of the main sensor, that Sony IMX586 sensor. It does a good job. There is details there. There is a slight amount of noise and distortion. Now, when it comes to low light, for nightscape, there is a difference. If you take images with the standard and then with the nightscape, number one is a slight lag, but that's more of the way that nightscape does the images. It takes a range of different images so that there is a bit of a delay, but the differences in terms of quality between a nightscape shot or a standard shot is actually quite visible. Now, as well as video, I think the video did pretty good. It records 1080p up to 60 or 30 frames per second, and there is some stabilization as well, so it does a good job when it comes to color, dynamic range, as well as stabilization there as well. So, in summary, I mean, I'm quite impressed with how much Realme have to offer with the 5 Pro, and I think for most people who are looking at an affordable to mid-range smartphone, particularly at this price point, are going to be quite tempted to consider this. Because if you go with the starting variation in this part of the world, it's going to set you back just 799 dirhams, which is an insane amount to pay for something that offers so much in terms of specs. And Realme is, again, one of those companies that does a really good job at marrying specs with asking price. Even if you were to go with that 4GB variation at 64 gigabytes of storage, you're still going to get nice design, you're still going to get fast charging, you're still going to get the quad camera setup and that Snapdragon 712 chipset. If you want to bump it up when it comes to RAM or storage capacity, you can do that for a little extra, but it's still a very, very good price worth considering. Leave me your comments down below what you think of the Realme 5 Pro. Are you tempted to go with this device if that's in the affordable range or in your budget? Let me know in the comment section down below. And if you're new around here, be sure to smash that like button, hit subscribe so that you can see more video content like this. I'll see you in the next video here on EMKWAN Reviews. Peace and blessings.